A poll, we had the feller on yesterday, Vern Kennedy, management, what is it? Management, no, marketing, research, insight.
MRI.
Poll company did a Shreveport mayoral poll, and a few conclusions that he drew. And Caddo Parish Republican Chairman Louis Avallone is here to dispute a few of those. Which one would you like to dispute first?
Well, first, to start out, how are we overlooking the fact that 65% of Shreveporters want a change, and the two candidates who are fighting for that second runoff spot with Ollie Tyler happen to be Republicans?
Now,
and yet at the same time, the conclusion is don't vote for a Republican.
The conclusion,
How is that?
The conclusion in the poll, in other words, the numbers that he came back with, and that's basically what was so, putting it mildly, fascinating about the numbers, was that for most of the polls we've seen, Tyler is a shoe-in for one of the runoff spots.
Absolutely.
2 and 3, 3 and 2, you can juxtapose the two Republicans, Taliaferro and Leo Savage, and Adrian Perkins fourth. And yet, according to the Kennedy poll, the MRI poll, what it showed was in head-to-head, face-off competition, if you will, the only one of the candidates who tops Miss Ollie head-to-head is Perkins, who may not make the runoff. That's what you're disputing, and why?
Well, yeah, because that's a foolish choice. Sheriff Prater would fare better against Ollie Tyler, but he's not in the race, and neither is Adrian Perkins. He has consistently polled fourth and fifth on nearly every poll, including the ones that I've seen the actual crosstabs on.
But
You're saying he's not in the race. He's in the race.
Well,
Come
he's
on.
in the race, but again, he is polling consistently fourth and fifth, and we keep ignoring that. I say we. I think the discussion in town.
But it's not at least a little interesting to you, at least, that according to the MRI poll, the only candidate that head-to-head has a chance to beat Ollie Tyler is the guy who's in fourth place.
But what does that say? What does that say about his candidacy, that the voters are not that enthusiastic about him in the first place?
What it says is there's 77,000 Democrats and 45,000 Republicans.
But there's 65% of them, and we keep trying to treat all voters as if from different demographics, as if they're all going to vote alike. I think we've got to wait, and we've got to look at after the runoff. The voters' polls right now reflect that both of the Republican candidates are the choice of the people to run against Ollie Tyler.
You might know this. What are the two Republican candidates right now? What are those two Republican candidates, Taliaferro, Savage? What are they doing to court Perkins supporters?
I don't know what each of those campaigns are doing.
What I said to Kennedy
Perkins
yesterday was, all of a sudden, if Perkins finishes fourth, he suddenly becomes a very powerful player in Shreveport politics, right?
Okay, but we've got to look at this again. The big number is that 65% of people in Shreveport want a change. So you have on one side Ollie Tyler, and you have 65% on the other side that are saying, we're done.
But Vern says the Republicans cannot beat her in a runoff. He said that. He says the people that are dissatisfied with her would rather her than one of the Republicans.
Well, but that's what's being said now. Look, get one of the Republican candidates in a runoff with Ollie Tyler, and you've got 65% of the people in Shreveport who are going to go that direction. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out saying,
Louis,
come on, that's pie in the sky.
That's pie in the sky.
Look, again, we are only getting some of this poll number, right? Where it's, and we deserve to have the whole truth. What is the rest of the poll? What does it reflect? I can tell you.
But you guys did a poll. You didn't release all your data.
Well, not necessarily. I have offered with several members of the media to sit down and go over those crosstabs and let you see each of those questions. The bottom line is that wherever there has been any data that has been made available with regard to these polls, Adrian Perkins has consistently polled fourth and fifth. But again, I think it is a mistake.
Which makes him very powerful when it comes to, because that's where the winning votes are.
No, that's not where the winning votes are. The winning votes are believing in the people of Shreveport, the 65% of the people in Shreveport who want change. I do not understand why we are overlooking the fact that the second and third ranked candidates in this race who have been running for months are Republicans. And for anyone to conclude, as this pollster obviously wants many of us to conclude, that voting for a Republican is somehow voting for Ali is just propaganda.
Why didn't the Republican Party get one of these guys out? Say,
my
look,
Lord.
we
Well,
have no shot if both of you stay in.
Isn't that the kind of politics that people are fed up with? The type of backroom, smoky,
You know it happened.
double dealing under
it
the
was
table.
Discussed.
Strategy is discussed because we have to win this election. And when I say we, I am saying the 65% of the people who know that Shreveport is going in the wrong direction. So, yes, strategy is discussed, but I think to go to one of these candidates at any point who feel like that they were led to run for this office, to lend their voice, to sacrifice both personally and professionally in order to get this message out there of how Shreveport can be better, I don't think that's what the people want either. So let the voters decide. And guess what? In poll after poll, they've chosen the messages of Jim Taliaferro and Lee Savage far and above the rest of the candidates.
Right now, we've got less than 2 weeks to go. Give me your top five. Give me the 5 major candidates the way you, Louis R. Avallone, chairman of the Caddo Parish Republican Party, give me 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, well, Stephen Jackson,
Number 5.
is doing the poorest in terms of the top 5. And then you've got Adrian Perkins. And statistically tied are Jim Taliaferro and Lee Savage. And there's Ollie Tyler.
Okay, I've got to ask you this because you know campaigns, the innards and outers. And I could have phrased that differently.
No, you could have been perfect. That was perfect.
There's a thing in elections that say momentum. And there's a big crowd in this town now that says Perkins has momentum. We're less than 2 weeks out. They would not be surprised if he bounces way up closer to Ollie than we all could even imagine.
That's nonsense. And poll after poll. How many polls have
Is
you
there
all
something to
reported
momentum,
on?
though?
Well, sure, there's
And
something.
does he have it?
Show me where that is, other than in hushed whispers or in folks saying, yeah, I'm considering him. But when folks go into that ballot box, they've got to make a decision. They know the history. They ought to be educated on each of the candidates and know what their positives are, what their negatives are, and then pull the lever. But again, how many polls have you guys talked about on air? Many of them. Mm-hmm. And almost every single one of them has Perkins 4th and 5th. I mean, it's not that he's on some polls he's higher, on some polls he's lower. Consistently, he's kind of like Stephen Jackson. Stephen Jackson's been polling around 5% consistently. So to say that one candidate like Adrian Perkins has momentum, okay, but show me where. I'm not that partisan. I try to be as objective as possible because, look, I'm with the 65% of the people in this city who believe we need change. I think that's where the voters are, and that's the decision that they're going to make. And to say that one candidate has momentum because a pollster who released part of their poll from folks who paid for the poll, who wanted a conclusion, which very frankly they got, I think is it's just short-sighted.